1980s, quite possibly one of the worst times in gaming. There were many reasons why gaming was doing terribly at this time. One of the main reasons was, well, most of the games were kind of shit. I'm specifically talking about two games: the Atari port of Pac-Man and one of the most infamous games of all time, E.T. for the Atari 600. Pac-Man was just a prototype that was just not ready, and E.T., of course, was just a pretty bad license game. Yeah, as well as a bunch of other garbage, it left a pretty bad taste in customers' mouths. Nowadays, there's usually only 3 console choices: PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox. But imagine back in the day, you had like 80 consoles that played the same terrible games. Obviously, terrible games and terrible consoles led to the video game crash of 1983. Enter Nintendo. By this time, Nintendo was just moving out of the toy industry and into the video game market, but because the American industry was sort of eating itself alive, they decided to redesign their Japanese Famicom console to look more like a toy, creating what we know in America as the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES for short, launching one of the most influential and greatest games of all time, Duck Hunt. This is some stupid little game with a fat Italian man. I'll be playing the game on a Nintendo Entertainment System with my PS4 controller, so I can play the game in just about almost the best way possible. Such a simple control scheme. You use the D-pad on the controller to move left and right, and down to sometimes crouch. Use the A button to jump, and the B button to gain speed. These controls are extremely simple nowadays, but for the time, it was probably one of the biggest leaps in gaming. There's just one problem with the controls. They're stiff as hell. It's kind of hard to explain. When you jump in the air, the momentum when you're running and walking stays when you jump. So when you jump, you better know where you're gonna land, because you're not gonna take it back. You can barely move in the air. On the upside to the simple controls, it is pretty easy to teabag. I guess that's a plus. Power-ups! Unlike in the later Mario games, there are only 3 power-ups in this game. Technically 4, but we'll get to that. The Super Mushroom. The first power-up you ever see in the game. And, well, one of the, if not the most iconic power-up in gaming. What does it do to learn this legendary status? It makes you bigger and break blocks. Yeah, that's it. For being the first power-up in the franchise, though, that gives it an iconic status alone. It doesn't really need to be anything else. It just needs to be simple, most players could understand. The Fire Flower. Another one of the most iconic power-ups in the series, and to this day is still arguably one of the best. You press the B button to shoot fireballs to kill most enemies in one hit. Man, I'm gonna say iconic a lot. Next up, we got the motherfucking... It's cool, I guess. It's a pretty rare power-up. I only got it like 5 times in my entire playthrough. It makes you invincible for like 10 seconds. Yeah. And finally, we have the 1-Up Mushroom. It gives you another life. What do you expect me to say? That's it. That's what these power-ups are. Simple little upgrades for the player. And honestly, that's all this game needs. They work how they're supposed to work. Enemies. You can't have a game without punching bags to kick the absolute shit out of. The Goomba, the series' first and most well-known enemy. How do you beat it, you may ask? Yeah. The Koopa Troopa. You stomp on their heads. But, when you stomp on them, they go into their shell, and you can kick them. So they are different from Goombas. Heck, you're even able to kill Goombas and more Koopas if the shell hits them. Koopas are the most diverse foes in the game. Red ones don't fall off the edge. Some of them have wings. The green ones, oh god, the green ones, they are annoying. They can jump almost as high as you, and usually they're placed on higher places compared to you. It makes sense, but you know, I still fucking hate them. Red Koopas with wings just fly up and down. They're pretty boring, to be honest. The Beetle, just like the Koopa, but they're smaller. Oh, and they're invincible to fireballs. They're fine, I guess. Piranha plants go up and down from pipes, and you can kill them with fireballs. That's it. Oh yeah, same thing with the fireballs that go up and down in Bowser's Castle, except they don't die in one hit with fireballs because they're fireballs. Cheeps. They're just walls in the water for you to avoid, but they are probably one of my favorite enemies in the game, mainly because of levels like 2-3 and 7-3. In these levels, the fish jump out of the water to try and kill you. It's really fun dodging these enemies. It gives me like a bullet hell type feeling. It's just fun to run through these levels and not lose any speed at all. It's also kind of fun to kill the enemies by jumping on them when they're trying to kill you. Speaking of bullet hell, or rather just bullets, the bullet bills. They usually get shot from cannons here. Usually they just shoot forward at your direction, but since they're really slow, it's pretty easy to dodge them. But just like Cheeps, they get really interesting in some levels. Usually they put multiple bullet bill cannons near each other, so multiple bullet bills will appear. They're still slow, but now there's a bunch of them coming at you. And now that there's multiple enemies and bullet bills coming right at you, it feels like an actual bullet hell. And although I'm not a fan of this game's controls, it's pretty fun in these small sections. Is there someone I'm forgetting? Just like... Oh, yeah. Lakitu. That son of a bitch. He's usually on top of the screen, flying, throwing spinies at you. They're just beetles, but they can be killed with fireballs. Yeah. Oh yeah, Lakitus, depending on the level, can be really annoying. But, again, in some levels, when you get to the top, you have a high enough advantage to kill them. They're gone from the level until they come back a few seconds later. Yeah, they kind of suck in my opinion. There are 8 worlds in the game with 4 levels in each of them. But you'll probably realize into World 3 that you're just playing the same levels over and over and over again. Some of them just being a bit worse. Some of them being a bit harder. Some of them just being a bit easier. But overall, I'd say just stop by World 3, because it just stops getting fun. You know, I'm starting to realize it's honestly pretty hard to review old games like this. You know, like NES, Atari games. Because, let's be honest, most of the games back in that era were kind of terrible, or boring, or just generally bad. For its time, it was revolutionary. Probably one of, if not the greatest game of its time. But nowadays, for a lot of people, including me, it's just not that fun. The controls are clunky, it's extremely simple, the bosses are bad, really bad, the music is simple. The music! I forgot about the music! I wonder why. The music's fine. The music's fine. Nothing's wrong with the music, it's just... everything is so simple. I just can't enjoy this game. In my opinion, I just don't think it's a good game. It has not held up. It just hasn't held up. So, for everything I just said, I think the game's a 4 out of 10. I can't deny how important this game was for the industry. But let's be honest, who is going to play this game if they're not going to review, speedrun, or just marathon all of the Mario games? Or if you're just a nostalgic for this game. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Hammer Bros! I forgot about the Hammer Bros. They're fucking easy. My god, people complain about the Hammer Bros so much in all of these games. And listen, when I was a little baby boy, yeah, I complained about them too. They used to be some of my least favorite enemies of any platformer. But for me, they're honestly pretty fun. If not some of the most fun enemies in the game. You know, in my first Mario video, I didn't really talk about how I was introduced to this series as a whole. I kinda forgot about it when writing and recording those last two videos. So before the actual review starts, I'm gonna talk about how I kinda got introduced to Super Mario Bros. 2 and the entire Mario series. The first console I ever owned was a Wii. One of the few games I had on it was Super Mario Galaxy. I absolutely fell in love with it, but I was never really good at the game. I don't think I even finished it until a few years ago when I got a new Wii. When it comes to the 3DS, I got two games with it. Super Mario 64 DS and New Super Mario Bros. 2. It's kind of sad my first experience with 2D Mario was New Soup. I remember watching a lot of Mario Party 9 compilations on YouTube, which led me to just more Mario content on YouTube. At some point I stumbled across these videos talking about these 8-bit 2D games. I had no idea that these old and outdated games were where the series started. But who cares about those old games? I have this new game. But even still, they're Mario, so I wanted to play them. Luckily, the 3DS had an online shop. I'm recording this on January 12th, so I don't know when the video will come out. Hopefully before the 3DS and Wii U shops are deleted. I didn't want to get the first one because, well, it's Mario 1. So, I got Mario 2 and 3. I played 3 first because, well, it looked much better than the first and second games. And man, I was bad. I'm working with a very limited memory here, but I do remember it being terrible. I hated Mario 3. And I haven't played it in a while. I mean, until the Mario 3 bit. But when it came to the second game, holy shit, this was awesome! I think I only got to the second world, and I just kept replaying those first two. But now, after all this time, I'm gonna come back and fully finish this game now in 2023. 2020. Yeah, I recorded all the footage and wrote the script in like December, so... Super Mario Bros. 2 was released on June 3rd, 1986 on the Famicom Disk System, and... Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, there's two versions of Mario 2. The original Mario 2, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, as we call it here in the States, was only released in Japan for a few reasons. For one, it was basically just a level pack. And two, they just thought it was too hard for American audiences.
Oh god.
Doki Doki Panic was released a year later on July 10th, 1987. It was a small platformer that was only released in Japan. After the original Mario 2 was released, they were already working on Super Mario Bros. 3. So, why not give American and European players a little game to play while waiting for the real sequel? So, on October 9th, 1988, Super Mario Bros. 2 was brought to the NES. You might be wondering, if this isn't the real Super Mario Bros. 2, then why aren't you just covering Lost Levels?
Fuck you.
We start off with, oh my god, multiple characters! Luigi was introduced in the 1983 arcade game, Mario Bros. And if you had another person with you playing the original Super Mario Bros., the second player would play as Luigi. I mean, come on, everyone knows Luigi. You love Luigi, I love Luigi, he's Luigi. But by this point in the series, he's just a recolor of Mario by this point. Our third playable character is Blue Toad. I didn't mention this in the first video, but when beating Bowser in the first 7 worlds, you save the Toad. Since there were so little characters to use, I assume they just want to have the Toad be playable. The last character we have is Princess Peach. You know, that block we saved in the last game. Again, I assume they added her because there weren't that many other options. Mario is the basic bitch of the crew. He plays exactly the same as he was in the first game, except he just feels so much better. He's much more precise to control when jumping and killing enemies. Hey, wait, what the fuck? Yeah, this is one of the many reasons why this game is considered the black sheep of the series. So if you can't kill these enemies by jumping on them, how do you kill them? Well, pressing the run button while on top of an enemy allows you to hold on to them, but it doesn't kill them. You kill enemies by tossing things at them. The main way you're gonna attack enemies is by pulling turnips from the ground. The concept of this seems much more tedious than the first game, but Mario 2 utilizes this combat system super well. The coolest thing with this is that, in some sections, there are multiple enemies in a row you're able to kill. Being able to kill up to 3 or 4 enemies is just so satisfying. Besides that, there's not much to defense when it comes to this game. We do still have power-ups though. The mushroom and star both return and work in about how they did in Mario 1. The mushroom acts as sort of a health bar. Instead of being able to take 2 hits, you're able to take up to 4 hits. We have this clock that allows you to stop time for a few seconds. And the power block, which kills all enemies on screen. Coming back to our main characters, Luigi is mostly like Mario, except he can jump a bit higher and is much more slippery. Peach is much slower than the bros, but she can float for a little bit. What makes her completely unplayable for me is that she is so much slower at plucking objects from the ground. Toad is the hard mode of the game. He's much faster than the rest of the crew, but he has a terrible jump. In my opinion, I don't think it's really worth playing as the other 3 characters. I'm fine with them being there, but I just like having fun with the basic bitch, okay? Every character also has one new move. When holding down, you'll start charging up, and when you let go, you'll jump a little higher. I found it very situational. It just wasn't that useful to me in my playthrough.
Oh no!
The bastard. The bastard. The goddamn bastard! How dare you show your face when you don't even fucking exist yet? This game was the first appearance of many iconic and well-known enemies. Shy Guys are the main enemy of the game, with multiple variants. Ninjas also make their debut here. All they do is jump up and down. Bob-ombs and Pokies also appear here too. When it comes to bosses, Meowser is sort of an interesting boss. Meowser is sort of an interesting boss. He throws bombs at you which take time to explode. During that waiting period, you can throw the bombs back. If you align yourself where the bombs are heading, you can catch them in midair. Triclide is this 3-headed snake that shoots fire at you, and you just throw stones at it. Fry Guy, a big fireball that just shoots fireballs. And Claw Grip is a big crab. Yep. Birdo is the mini-boss of the game. She shoots eggs at you, which you have to grab in midair and throw back at her. I just realized in this script I'm gonna say throw a lot. There's different versions of Birdo that shoot faster or shoot fire. Is Birdo like a species or something? You know, like Yoshi. Like, I was thinking because there are like multicolored Birdos, you know, and like... Wait, Yoshi. Oh my god, I just realized. This was Birdo's first appearance in the series, and Yoshi appeared in Mario World. Fuck, I didn't realize that. Fuck, she's older than Yoshi. Although Mario 2 is about 2 to 3 hours longer than the first game, it has one less world. It's one of the few Mario games not to stick with the 8-world, 4-level structure. By the end of every level, instead of a flagpole, you go inside this fucking weird bird mouth thing. Quite a few levels in the game have you platforming up a tower or going through sand. While climbing up towers, you're usually dodging attacks from Shy Guys, Sniffets, and these electric balls called sparks. And yes, they can be killed. In some towers and in other levels, we have these locked doors which need keys. When you pick up the key... God damn it! I think World 2 is my least favorite world. Maybe because the quicksand makes the levels much slower, and these stupid fucking snakes always get me. Or maybe these parts where you have to go through the sand and it completely kills the pace of these 3 levels. As we get into the third world and... Oh my god, my eyes! The third world is where it starts to get much harder than the first 2 worlds. Is that a fucking flamingo? Not much to say about this world, but it is pretty fun. World 4 is, oh god, the Ice World, and I think it's one of my favorite worlds. Obviously, because the floor is ice, Mario is much harder and more slippery to control. But I don't know why. I just had a lot of fun playing through this world. Dodging so many enemies so quickly is just really satisfying to do. It reminds me of the bullet bill and cheap levels from the first game, but much faster and much more tense. Level 3 of the fourth world really confused me at the beginning, because I had nowhere to go. The only thing I had was a small island and there was a Birdo, but then I realized. Yeah. World 4 is easily my favorite world in the game. It has some of the best levels in this game, and just overall some of the best ice levels in a game I've played. The slippery controls somehow give these levels such a fun challenge. Okay, you got this.
Communist piece of shit.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
World 5 isn't anything special, but it does have a nice color palette. For some reason, they just pull out a Mega Man Spike section out of nowhere. I mean, I like it, but why is it here? World 6 is... Wait, is what? Another goddamn sand world? Why? Why 2 sand worlds? Oh, that's just bullshit. Oh my god, this pot section. They give you no clue as to which pot has the key you need to open the door. I had to go into every single pot. At least we get a green Birdo at the end. We finally get to World 7 as we reach the clouds. Oh god, now they're bombing me? I don't know. There's just not that much to say about the rest of the game right now. World 7 just isn't that interesting to me. Well, I mean, it's in the clouds, it's kind of hard, and that's really it. Maybe because it only has 2 levels. The first one being outside the castle, and the second level being a gauntlet inside the castle. We end with a final fight between the big bad of the game, Wart. He's a big frog. And that's it. We did it. We beat the game and we saved the day. Super Mario Bros. 2 is a great game, and it easily tops the first game when it comes to quality. I really feel like this game gets overshadowed when people talk about 2D Mario. It's a great game. I know it's different compared to other 2D Marios, but I feel like this is an important game in Mario's history. I'm only saying this once. Play Super Mario Bros. 2. Not Lost Levels, not that, no, please don't. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Video game movies are very much known for their incredible writing and quality.
Monkey!
There are not that many Nintendo movies because, well, you know. Besides Pokemon, Jesus Christ, one of the few other Nintendo movies is...
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
The Wizard was released on December 15th, 1989. A story about 3 kids traveling to California so they can compete in the Ultimate Video Game Championship. The movie is certainly something, but no one cares about the actual movie itself. There's only one reason why you'd watch this movie today.
Super Mario Brothers 3! You have 10 minutes, and the player with the most points wins!
Super Mario Bros. 2 sold over 7 million copies worldwide, with it becoming the 4th best-selling on the NES. Oh, and that our other one made about like 2 million, but who cares? This stupid Italian brings in the big bucks, so obviously they gotta make another one. The development of Super Mario Bros. 3 actually started in 1986, shortly after the release of Lost Levels, the original Super Mario Bros. 2 on the Famicom Disk System. The creator of Super Mario Bros., Shigeru Miyamoto, served as a director overseeing the game. The team behind the game wanted it to be played at an isometric angle. God, could you imagine what that'd have looked like? But they just decided to keep it at a normal 2D perspective. You can definitely see that the development team knew what they were able to do with the limited capabilities of the NES when looking at the sprite work. But we'll save the presentation for a later section of the video. If you haven't seen my last 2 Mario videos, it's good for me to let you know that I don't really have a lot of experience with classic or old Mario. Like when it comes to the NES all the way to the GameCube, I have little to no experience, aside from Sunshine, Mario World, and some of the GBA games. Again, as I said in my Mario 2 video, I didn't like Super Mario Bros. 3. In fact, I hated it. Like, this is one of the best NES games, one of the best Mario games, this game, but now I am fully gonna finish this game in this review. Note that at this part of the script I haven't played the game, so yeah. After finishing the game and recording all the footage, let's just jump right into it. When it comes to the overall presentation of the game, The sprite work of the game has majorly improved since the last 2 games. All the enemies, blocks, and power-ups look really nice. Mostly. I'm not really a huge fan of the color palette, but I get why it looks like this. Most NES games have pretty simple or pretty shit color palettes. And with Mario 3 having some pretty detailed sprites for the NES, I understand why the color palette's so simple. With all that being said, I still don't like its color palette. It just looks too dark and muddy. But let's actually talk about the sprites themselves. Obviously, Mario 3 sprites are much more detailed and overall bigger than Mario 1, especially with Mario himself. You can actually tell he has a mustache. Overall, I think the sprites look great. It just has a really shitty color palette. The music is... wait, the music. Holy shit, this game actually has music! There's actually more than 2 tracks this time. We've got as much as a unique track for all 8 world maps, which makes me very happy. The music barely ever gets dull and repetitive, unlike the first 2 game soundtracks. Most of Mario 3's soundtrack is very catchy and pretty overall great to listen to. If you remember my original video on Mario 1, I wasn't very kind to the controls. They overall felt stiff and finicky. I just didn't like the physics and the feeling of how the game played. But now, when it comes to how 3 plays, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's better. Leagues better than the first game. Being able to turn in the air alone makes it feel so much better. Mario is so much faster than he was in both of the other games. There's even a meter to showcase how fast you're going, which also connects to a few other power-ups. There's still one thing I want to talk about when it comes to how Mario controls. As I'm writing and recording this, I'm not sure if I would call this a positive or a negative. In Mario's 1 and 2, Mario felt a lot more floaty, to me at least. In the first game, Mario was slippery and clunky, which is why I didn't like how he played in that game. But in Mario 2, his traction was massively improved, which is why it was a lot more fun to control in that game. Now in 3, he feels much heavier. He has an improved jump height, but he falls like a goddamn brick. It's not necessarily a bad change, but I just personally like how Mario 2 controls more. But in a 2D Mario game, it's not just about the physics. It also needs to have good power-ups. The mushroom, fire flower, star, and 1-up reappear, with quite a few more joining as well. The Super Leaf, and the Tanuki suit. Probably one of the most iconic and well-known power-ups in the series. When the meter at the bottom is full, you'll be able to fly for a limited amount of time. Even without a full meter, you can still glide in the air if you just fucking demolish the jump button. My only big problem with it is the actual tail. And besides making Mario a furry, it's supposed to give you another way of attacking. The thing is, it has such a small hitbox and such a long startup, you shouldn't really use it unless you literally have no other options. Oh, and the P-Wing gives you infinite flight. If you keep mashing, of course. The hammer suit is really cool.
If I had one!
I don't know if it's because of the route I took throughout the game, but I could not find one in any level. I was able to get one from a Toad House, and it was in my inventory, but for some reason, I wasn't able to select it. Oh, one quick detour. On the map there are some Toad Houses that can give you items for your inventory and give you an edge in the levels. And finally, the frog suit. The fucking frog suit. It allows you to swim underwater. The power-up does its job well, but it shows a huge problem when it comes to how Mario controls underwater. Overall, I think the controls and physics of the game work quite well. In fact, I really like how Mario feels. But the swimming sucks. I talked about this in my Sonic 1 video, about how most people, including me, don't like water levels because they slow down the game and kill the pace. But here's the thing, it's not that the levels themselves suck, it's how the character controls and feels. You know what? I might actually make a video about water levels, because it's interesting how many games actually mess this idea up. Overall, the gameplay loop and control you have over Mario is really satisfying. Although I do still prefer how Mario 2 controls. So far I've been pretty positive on how I see Mario 3, but I do think there is just a teensy tiny bit of a problem with the game. Just a tiny problem.
Here's a wake, anger breathes out, face reality, never be charity. The enemy you're fighting covers all society. Damn right, mommy's not here, gonna fight all night. Right here, shadow 10 o'clock direction. Seize the moment, destroy the nation. You rhyme slow motion, give me motivation. Breathe out now, and then I'm a rival. Round up around, spit out, all over. Rhyme like a rolling stone, come in the crowd. Watch out the moon, they diss too loud. This what's this sound, and bombs whole ground. So round up, don't ease your pace, cause enemies brutal. Moment of truth, there ain't no truth. You're the only one world, one love. But the battle goes on, shadows all mass destruction.
Oh yeah, dun 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 dun, baby baby, dun 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 dun. Oh yeah, dun 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 dun, baby baby, dun 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 dun. Oh yeah, dun 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 dun, baby baby, dun 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 dun. Oh yeah, dun 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 dun, baby baby, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, it's just a tiny bit hard. Mario 1 and 2 weren't that hard. One had its bullshit moments like some of the later castles, but overall it's still relatively easy to get into for new players. Now, when it comes to Mario 3, the main reason I hated Mario 3 for such a long time was because of, well, how kind of bullshit it is. Also, reminder, for the longest time I played this on the 3DS. Also, I'm just pretty bad at video games in general. Some of the best levels in the game tend to be pretty open and giving you plenty of room to gain speed. When it comes to the auto-scrollers, they're okay, I guess. I find some of the early ones pretty fun though. A lot of the early ones do a very good job of being fast enough to keep you on your toes, but they also give you enough time to show you what's coming in front of you. One of the biggest negatives, and positives with the game, is its level design as a whole. It's sort of like a complex puzzle. Although most of the levels are your standard go from left to right affair, sometimes there are more unique levels that act like mazes. Levels like 3 Castle, 6-5, 7-5, 7 Castle, and 8 Castle. Fuck that one specifically. My main problem is that they get rather tedious and boring because, well, as a first-time player, technically, you're just going to be guessing pathways until you make your way to the end. Luckily, they're the only levels that do this, so that's good, I guess. But now when it comes to the actual, really bad levels, the tank and airship levels. I hate these levels. Not because they're extremely hard, although they can be extremely bullshit at points. For one, earlier in the video, I talked about how I didn't really like the color palette of this game. These stages are they just look awful. They're also auto-scrollers. Yay. These levels are too slow to be running straight through, and they're too fast for you to think about your next move with all the cannons shooting at you. And the worst part, all of these levels are just the same, and the bosses are ass. Boom Boom is the jobber of the game, a mini-boss used for all of the bosses. To show you how shit all the bosses are, here's Boom Boom from World 1, and here's Boom Boom from World 8. A real challenge, am I right? The Koopalings. Larry, Morton, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, and Ludwig von Beta. Koopa. They all make their first appearance in the series with this game. Oh, and look at that, they all suck too! You can jump on their shells and bounce off them. They're spiky shells. Like, what the fuck? That literally takes all the difficulty away from the bosses. At least Bowser's fight is somewhat interesting. He jumps in the air and tries to crush you, with you needing to lead him into the middle of the breakable block so he can fucking kill himself. Unironically, Bowser from the first game was a better boss than every single one in 3. This game has such a weird difficulty curve. The beginning is pretty standard for most Mario games, but then it just decides to pull out some random bullshit out of nowhere, but then goes back into easy mode a few stages after, and the bosses are just mind-numbingly easy. I'm not saying the entire game is bullshit. I feel a lot of the deaths in my playthrough were mostly my fault. It's just that this game is just not very good for newcomers. Why do people love Super Mario Bros. 3? Why does Nintendo keep referencing and taking things from it? Why is it constantly seen as one of the best NES games of all time, and just overall one of the best Mario games of all time? Well, for one, it's the third best-selling NES game with over 17 million copies worldwide. Nostalgia. When I see a lot of people talk about how Mario 3 is the best game in the series, they're generally much older and mainly grew up with those older games. But mainly, I think the biggest and main reason for why it's so fondly remembered is, well, it's just a pretty well-made game. Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of, if not the most polished game on the NES. A lot of the levels in the game get very creative at points, and give us a lot of fun gimmicks, so it can switch up the formula every few levels. Even though I heavily criticize the unfairness and difficulty of the game, there's still a great mix of satisfaction when finally beating a difficult level. I genuinely want to go back to the game so I can get better at it. I like Mario 3. I don't think it's the best game in the series, but hey, it's really damn good. A solid 7 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, and see you next time. I've said this before, but I'm not very experienced with classic Mario. I'm pretty sure if I played these games more when I was younger, I'd probably be a lot more positive and go a lot more in depth with these games. I'm probably going to remake that Mario video later on. Still, just because I haven't grown up with something doesn't mean I don't see it as quality. Ever since the development of the first Mario game, the team always wanted Mario to ride a horse, as well as having a gun.
Yoshi!
Super Mario World, the fourth Super Mario game. Released in 1990 for the Super Famicom and a year later on the SNES. Originally, when testing out how a Mario game would work on the SNES, they ported the original 3 games to the system. That version would later become Super Mario All-Stars, which we'll talk about in a later video. With the power of the SNES allowing them to make more complex games, things that were seemingly impossible on the NES, like having Mario ride on a horse, were actually possible. I don't really know how to transition this intro into the game, so... The SNES was a huge graphical upgrade compared to the NES. Just putting Mario World and 3 right next to each other shows that. They were able to now put so much more detail in the sprites compared to the original 3 games. Mario alone is more detailed than most of the sprites in those games, and it actually looks very accurate to the cover, having multiple different colors to even add shading. The entire game is just way more colorful and detailed. The enemies, power-ups, backgrounds, all of it just pops out way more. And there are so many different backgrounds and themes for the levels now. It's really hard to describe anything much further than that. It's just an upgrade and there's really not much to talk about. Just look at it. Just look at the Koopas. They walk now! The gameplay of Super Mario World at a glance doesn't look any different from the last game, but it does differ and even improve on aspects and the feel of 3. Because the NES now has more buttons on the controller, they were able to add one new move, the spin jump. This move is so fucking awesome. You can kill enemies easily, bounce off thwomps, and even destroy these new blocks that replace the old standard blocks. The spin jump is a small but really cool addition to Mario's moveset, and I just realized this move just becomes a part of his base moveset, like it's in every other game I can think of. Mario himself also just feels very fine-tuned. He's still a bit heavy, but feels a bit faster and less slippery. I think it also helps that he gets a lot of airtime when bouncing off an enemy. The Fire Flower and Mushroom make the return, with a new power-up joining, the Cape Feather. The Cape Feather is a new power-up for the game that basically allows you to fly. I'm serious, like just fly. You need to gain momentum like the Tanuki Leaf, but after that, you can just fly in the air for a while. Pushing the D-pad back and forth in rhythm is what allows you to stay in the air. It's just like the Tanuki Leaf, but way better. You can float down in the air without mashing the A button, and it has a way better attack range. I love the cape, but it's kinda sad it never really comes back in any other game. Well, not in any Mario game. The final new power-up is the P-Balloon. Yep. Another new gameplay feature we see in this game is that horse idea that's finally brought to life. Yoshi. That's a dinosaur? Yoshi adds a new aspect to the gameplay. He can walk and bounce on most sharp objects, unlike Mario. And his biggest attribute? Yoshi has the ability to eat just about any enemy in the game. The hitbox of Yoshi's tongue when jumping is a bit wacky, and it requires a bit more timing and precision. But overall, it's a great move that even goes through walls and pipes. Yoshi is just fun to use in general, and expands the moveset in so many ways. But you will kind of feel like an asshole for letting him die points. I didn't really talk about the soundtrack of the games in the last 3 videos because, well, there wasn't really much to talk about in my opinion. I just don't find the soundtracks in the NES Mario games to be very memorable, aside from some of them that are remixed in every other Mario game. The soundtrack of Super Mario World is kind of interesting to talk about because most of it is just a motif of the title song. Almost every track in the game is just a twist on the main theme. I like it. To me, it's something that just really ties all the levels in the game together. I just like all the ways they remix that theme, especially the track that plays in the underwater levels. Mario, Peach, and Luigi, he's here too, all decided to take a vacation by going to this magical place called Dinosaur Island. But while they were relaxing, Bowser and his little shits kidnapped Peach, trapped all the Yoshis into eggs, and took over the island. The overall of the game is pretty cool. The way they expanded and improved from 3 is incredible. There are 6 worlds to go through, generally having about 7 levels in each. Compared to 3, the levels in the world are pretty forgiving, but they can still provide plenty of challenges at points. I probably should have mentioned this during the gameplay section, but I'll just say it here. The slopes are slippery as fuck. They're usually put in areas of the level where it's very easy to fall off, or they put a bunch of distractions or enemies near you. The water levels. They're okay, I guess. They're better than the last 3 games, but not by much. The castles in this game are pretty interesting, and where the difficulty of the main game comes in. I really enjoy all the gimmicks that accompany these levels. There's even these cute little cutscenes that play after beating these shit-ass bosses. We are 5 games in, and these bosses still suck ass. It's like you're going through this extremely well-designed and extremely fun fortress that tests you on your experience from its world, and it just ends with a wet fart. They're just so damn easy. You'll probably no, you'll definitely finish most of these in less than a minute. I died once. Once. And the only reason I ever did die was because I got careless. To be honest, that's the only reason you'll ever get hit. You're gonna be so bored of playing these, you're just gonna stop paying attention, and the boss will actually get an opportunity to hit you. You can say this for all of these Mario games, and a lot of the games after this one. These bosses are bland and boring. It's the one thing that this series struggles with, but I didn't want to repeat myself in later Mario videos, so I thought I could just say it here. Back to what I was saying, once you beat a castle, you get a cute little cutscene of Mario saving a kidnapped Yoshi, and destroying these castles in various ways. I'm pretty sure most people have seen the one where he picks up and punts the castle away, but there's one that's even more funny. He grabs a goddamn mop and just wipes it away. These cutscenes are ridiculous, and they just add a lot of charm to the game, which is something I can't really say about the last three. Mario World has a pretty good and challenging finale. World 7 was difficult as hell, but nothing unmanageable. What I really want to talk about is the final level of the game, Bowser's Castle. It has a really cool gimmick. Once you enter, you get a choice of entering 4 doors, all with completely different layouts, with 4 more doors, which also have completely different layouts. It's a super cool idea that I don't think they've ever really done in this series later on. This gimmick really makes the final level stand out. The final boss isn't anything special, but I'm pointing it out solely for the fact that it utilizes the throwing mechanic, and it's a really fun gimmick that makes it stand out from a lot of the other bosses in this series. Super Mario World is an incredibly well-made game. Hey, we're not done yet. There's still something else we need to talk about. Mario 3's whole design was focused on puzzles and secrets, and I didn't fully like it. It wasn't a bad idea. It's just that how the fuck are you gonna figure out some of this shit without a guide? World, on the other hand, cut down on all the hidden stuff and secrets. And in my opinion, they changed it in a good way. The ghost houses were a pretty good compromise for these more puzzle-like levels. Sometimes you really need to think about where you're gonna go in these levels, as you can easily get stuck in a loop. The fourth world, the Forest of Illusion, is a pretty good example on how the map and secrets work overall. You could get stuck in a loop in the overworld if you don't find a secret exit at one of the levels. But if you do, it tends to lead you to a secret path to another level, or even a secret world. This is where the real game begins. Star Road, one of the secret worlds in the game. It consists of 5 interesting but easy levels. By this point in the game, you really need to utilize the mechanics and power-ups and really understand how the game works. So Star Road works like this. You go through a level normally and nothing happens. But by this point, you've learned from your playthrough of the main game. There's clearly something special about the level that you just went through. You go back and you find a hidden key that leads you to another path. This allows you to go to the next level and skip the world. And yes, it can lead you all the way to the final world. Once you go through all 5 secret exits, another star is opened in the middle, which finally leads us to the real end of the game, the special world. We get 8 final levels that give us a final challenge. These levels consist of
Gnarly, Tubular, Way Cool, Awesome, Groovy, Mondo,
Mondo. What the fuck is Mondo?
Outrageous,
And
Funky.
these levels are the ones I had the most difficulty with. I will say, not all of them are great. Tubular uses the P-Balloon for like the entire level. And in concept, it's a good idea. But, fuck it, I'll just talk about it right now. The P-Balloon sucks, but it's not really a power-up you hate in my opinion. Hell, they even tried to bring it back in some form, and I think it worked those times. You just move too slow when using it, and for me that kills the power-up and kills the level in general. Way Cool really tested my patience though. These fucking names, man, my god. The level consists of you needing to ride this conveyor, occasionally needing to switch to a rope, and needing to use these on and off blocks. I died a lot when playing this level. The amount of things you need to pay attention to and dodge make this level extremely frustrating, but extremely rewarding once you complete it. And I can say that about most of these levels. That's what I really like about these levels. Although there were points where it felt like the developers were just throwing random bullshit at you, the way they twist level ideas, how they utilize all of the enemies, and all of the special little gimmicks they add, make it so much more satisfying once you complete it all. After going through the fucking gauntlet that is funky, you get a nice little message at the end of the stage. You are a super player. And that's it. That's the end of the game. The way you unlock them, and that goes for all the secrets in this game. The reason why I think the secrets and puzzles in the world are more interesting and overall better than Mario 3 are for one big reason. It's all optional. Besides the forest, the secret exits, and the 2 worlds are all completely optional. You don't need to do any of that to fully enjoy this game, but you should. Super Mario World. I'm gonna be honest, before I even made this video, I didn't think this game was that special. I just lumped it in with 3 and 64. Games that I found to be extremely overrated. Like, I played it a long time ago, and I thought it was okay, I guess. Then, I played Super Mario Advance 2. It wasn't incredible, but god damn, it was such a fun experience. And now, as I finally played the original SNES version, yeah, I get it. I get why people love this game. Super Mario World is one of the most well-made, well-designed, and overall one of the best 2D platformers I have ever played. A 9 out of 10. This is like the first video where I've been like overly positive towards something. I'm not done with these retrospectives, but I will say this. Making this video and the video I made on Mario 3 has given me a newfound respect for these older Mario games. I never hated them, but I never found them that interesting. But as I went through these 4 games, it made me realize why Mario is such an important franchise to me, and I hope I can discuss this more when I talk about Mario 64. Be sure to like and subscribe, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Moments of calm, nothing left to be found. A mirror right in front of me, that's where I